Or would you be willing to to be a second wife?
Absolutely not. No.
Oh well, it is a choice. It's up to her. She can do as she please. Um, I mean, of course, there is this advocation for, I don't know, being single. You know.
Brother, what's that?
Anyway, assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Raiz. If you are new to the channel, please consider a subscribe. Like the video if you enjoy this video, and then turn on the notification bell should you want to keep up with my content, inshallah. So in today's video, I'll be reacting to a podcast of a man and woman, a brother and a sister, who is discussing polygamy. And I know so many of you have been asking me to react to certain videos, and especially because a lot of sisters have the strong advocacy against polygamy, and I think sometimes there's just a whole lot of misunderstanding about it, especially from the sister side. And of course, brothers also have this warped understanding of what a polygamy is about. And yeah, I think it's not a well ironed out topic amongst the youth, I think, especially. I mean, even the older folk. I think it's very misunderstood. Nonetheless, let's get into it and react.
And many of the men that are most willing to marry single mothers and converts are men already married and would take a second or third wife. And that's also part of the Sunnah in that too.
I feel like 9 times out of 10, that's the only Sunnah that is brought up, is the marrying multiple wives. It is. And if you ask other sisters, I feel like men are constantly being reminded that they're allowed to have more than one wife.
Look, I do think that men are prone to the sunnah, but it's certainly not the only sunnah that men think about. I mean, I would consider, talking about or identifying in this conversation, particularly a man, a Muslim man who is conservatively adopting, a Muslim lifestyle in his life. And if that is the case, which it's most probably that a man who has this type of lifestyle, a Muslim identity, one who has a Muslim identity, he would probably be more prone to polygamy, yes. But at the same time, I mean, I think he would be one who is, performing other sunnahs, who is adopting other sunnahs in his life. Maybe, carrying the miswak or using the miswak, or I don't know, going to the masjid regularly, fasting on, regularly as well. So I think this is a false premise by a lot of sisters. But I won't deny that it is a strong preference, a sunnah that a lot of Muslim men would like to apply. Can they apply it? That's the issue.
Putting the same emphasis on marrying reverts and marrying single mothers and marrying widows. That is part of the sunnah, having more than one wife within the rules, limitations, guidelines, right? Because every man can't afford 2 homes, right? And because we're not talking, how other religions do multiple wives where everybody lives in one house, right? We know that Islamically, the Sunnah says, like, what you give to one, you give to all, right? And that if you can't do that, even with your emotions, it's best to only have one.
Look, so this idea, a lot of sisters, they would advocate for brothers or men to marry reverts, single mothers, divorcees, widows, and so on. And 100%, yes, that is part of the Sunnah. In fact, I'm of the opinion that this is, I wouldn't say more so for them, but it helps them out tremendously. But it does not exclude the single sisters, the sisters who has never been married before. Often I think the sisters would automatically discard the idea that this category of sister is not meant for polygamy. In fact, I've come across cases where, a single, never been married sister is approached for polygamy, and she's somewhat leaning to it. And her peers, you know, her sister would, well, if that's even a word, her sister would then advocate for, no, don't do this. You're still young. You have so much time, and you can most probably find a man who's perhaps not married. Now, yes, this is the case. It's true. It can happen, but it also cannot. And again, I refer to the current marriage market where things aren't looking too good. Um, And time is really not on a sister side. Really, it's not. With the modern sphere telling sisters to, hold it out, have a career, push back, having a family, don't rush into marriage. You can. I mean, they would even say that you can rather feel out uh, a dating scenario than actually, pursuing marriage head on. And I think this is what the sisters are falling into, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I don't think that's completely true based on this type of uh, category of sister. Of course, the widows and the reverts and that category, I think they would lean more so to polygamy than most sister, of course, because they are in a different type of situation, perhaps a different time in their lives. They've had the kids, they've had the first marriage, they've had this and that, and so just having some partner, whether it be that she's sharing him, wouldn't be too much of a detrimental thing for her. And then she mentioned something along the lines of equality, where perhaps you give one house to the one wife and another house to another wife, where she also mentioned something along the lines of other religions where men who engage in polygamy within that religion or that culture, let's say, they would stack their women all into one house and live like that, basically. There is nothing in the Sunnah, not as far as I know, where this cannot be done, although it is not it's not a Sunnah practice. In fact, I know of, especially I think in my culture, well, not now, but back in the day, let's say our grandfathers, great grandfathers, they would marry, multiple women and then have them all in one house. And from what I've heard, like our fathers and our grandfathers would say, I grew up in a house with two mothers, and things were fine and things were good. I mean, this is what they're saying. We don't know what the details are between those women and maybe the husband as well. I do think that, personally, I do think that that is a bit harsh in terms of stacking your women folk or your wives all in one house, especially if your house is not really the biggest house. Maybe this, I don't know, a double story, a triple story, or you have a lot of land type of thing, then perhaps it could work. For me personally, I feel that it's better to keep your wives, in two separate dwellings, and perhaps with a little bit of distance. So I kind of agree with her on that, but nonetheless, it's not really a set in stone type of thing where you should be keeping them separate, at least as far as I know. Yeah, and of course emotionally as well, giving them equal attention and emotional availability or emotional availability is important. With women, they have a lot to give emotionally, and for a man to receive all that and to then give further back is not the easiest thing. And so you would have to have capacity for that, I think. So she's correct in that sense. Just with equality, I would say it's more so equity than equality, because I mean, there's so much, there's dynamic involved, where you can't really give 100% equal on either side. You flow into a lifestyle where you maintain a certain type of contentment, a certain type of happiness, what she on the one side is happy with and content with and would abide with, yeah, and so on and so forth. And similarly to the other wife, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you buy the one a Honda or a Mercedes or a, I don't know, I'm just making cars as an example, or a BMW, that you should get the other the exact same. Perhaps the other tends not to thrive on such a lifestyle. Maybe she's more subtle in a sense where she's, I don't know, she's happy with, I don't know, something far more less extravagant. Maybe she likes farm life, for instance, and the other likes city life. So there's that type of, I'm just making, an example of this. So there's that type of dynamic that you'd have to consider. So I wouldn't say it's 100% equal, but equity is the actual key word, I think.
Emotionally, that wouldn't work for me, right? So I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I know that emotionally I would not be okay with that. Oftentimes that is said, like, well, have you thought about, being a second wife because you have 3 kids, you have 4 kids, you have whatever, right? But why?
Why would a man, or why should a man choose a single mother or a divorcee?
Why would I choose them?
First of all, I think that the reason why a lot of sisters hold out and have the strong stance against polygamy is due to a more of a social engineering aspect rather than it being a biological reason for why they wouldn't want polygamy. Let me say first that biologically, I would say that to a certain degree, yes, women would prefer being the only one, but they are adaptable to accept a man who has multiple women or wives. In actual fact, if you look at it in this way, a man who is able to maintain multiple women has a is actually seen as one who has a better chance of looking after another. Why is it so that these women, they run after sports stars and celebrities and politicians, those men who has a lot of power and money, they flock towards them and they don't mind sharing them, right? And it's biologically ingrained within them to want this, because yes, she would have a chance of living a certain lifestyle, uh, having certain access to power and money, let's say. And then also, her offspring, her kids would be in better shape, in better circumstances compared to a man who doesn't look that part. So that's biologically there. But the social engineering, I think, is an aspect that is actually the primary cause for why sisters, at least in the modern age, why they don't want to hold out, or they take the strong stance against polygamy. And we see this in Hollywood and in Netflix, Disney. As young girls, they grow up thinking that they are princesses, and or they are told that they should think like this, where they should be waiting, or holding it out for this Prince Charming, and so on. Um, and again, in the old world, this wasn't the case. There was no such ideas. There weren't any ideas like this, and so this is why we find that I think there is a huge, a mass type of delusion within the sphere of womanhood when it comes to this type of thing. And I mean, maybe they're looking at, I don't know, this 1950s, 1960s ideologue, or picture, where you have this family unit of a man and a woman and children. Even then, we would find that men would go out and have their way with other women, mistresses and girlfriends and so on, which was a lot of the time the case. And it was never an ideal utopia of monogamy. Monogamy was never in the picture of this type of Americanized dream, utopia type of thing, if you understand what I'm saying. So, yeah, I think it's a whole lot of falsehood and delusion. Polygamy is there as a rescue, as a solution for women specifically, yes. And so I think they should perhaps open their minds up and open their hearts up to understanding things, understand why it exists. I know because of the social engineering, again, they have the strong advocacy. The emotions are, they push back so hard against it. But again, Allah knows best and Allah is most wise.
Would you be willing to to be a second wife?
Absolutely not. No.
Oh, well, it is a choice. It's up to her. She can do as she please. Um, I mean, of course, there is this advocation for, I don't know, being single, you know, with the current statistics and way of the world, where it's most probably that, well, especially if women are single mothers or divorced at a late age, or I think in general, actually, that, considering the climate, the marriage pool and dating climate, I'd say that women being single, well, obviously men as well, but women being single is a high probability.